Welcome to USA Football's Coach and Coordinator Podcast, where top football coaches from around the country share their stories, philosophies, concepts, and strategies to help you get better on and off the field. Now, here's your host, Keith Grabowski.
Hey, coaches, before we get going today, I just wanted to thank you for all you've been doing to support this podcast, and we have an incredible lineup coming up here. We have just about every major college conference represented. We have a ton of FBS coaches, Division II coaches, Division III coaches, some great high school football coaches coming on the podcast to share with you and help you grow professionally during this time. I really appreciate all of you asking your questions on Twitter. Please follow me at Coach K. Grabowski for our daily updates on our guests and your opportunity to ask questions. We will read them on the show and attribute those to you. So please contribute to the show as much as you can. I also want to talk to you a little bit about our football development model, which is something we've rolled out here at USA Football. And this is really for you to be able to help your youth football programs develop. It's about a long-term athlete development plan. It's something that comes off of the American development model, which is something that the USOC has put together. The idea is that we're able to teach skills in a progression starting at the youngest ages. We're also looking at the different game types we have, whether that's flag, which is non-contact, limited contact games like padded flag or tackle bar, and full contact, and the right progressions for contact teaching there as well. Be sure to check out all we do at footballdevelopment.com and check out what we're doing with the FDM, the football development model, at usafootball.com/FDM. usafootball.com.
Hello, coaches, and welcome to the Home Team Podcast, where football coaches from around the country provide the coaching community with improvements to their game plans for winning as a husband and a father. Today, we have the honor of speaking to Coach Matt Jones. Coach Jones is the run game coordinator, tight ends, and tackles coach at University of Tennessee Martin. Coach also helped kind of start the Linemen lunch, for those of you that are familiar with that, on Twitter by posting clips from around the country, mainly in the NFL, highlighting offensive linemen. Before Coach went to UT Martin, he spent 2 seasons on staff at Texas Southern, where he was the offensive line coach. Prior to that, he also worked at Jackson State under the same capacity. Coach has also worked at his alma mater, Eastern Illinois, as a student assistant, coached at the high school level, and then also coached at Villanova and Tulane. I found it really amazing. Coach Jones just has such a great beat on what's important in his life and how he raises his son and the values that he has. Really interesting to hear during this time, just kind of how they're managing to, they actually still have players on campus and still getting a chance to help those guys. So really a great chat. I really appreciate all of his insights and his willingness to, speak on this podcast. So without further ado, Coach Matt Jones from the University of Tennessee Martin. Coach Jones, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right in and start talking about the stars of your home team, beginning with your wife. And how did you meet this special woman?
Well, my wife is Becky Jones. She's the former Becky Gorthy. So we met at work. She was an athletic trainer at Avila University, and I was the O-line run game coordinator. So work romance. They tell you not to do it, but I know more guys that got married out of that than actually the guy I GA'd for. Married a graduate, or not a graduate assistant, athletic trainer, as well as our defense coordinator here. So that's how we met in Kansas City, Missouri, coaching NAI football.
Giddy up. Yeah. What's a character trait and or quality that makes her so special to you?
Well, she is a Navy brat. So she's lived all throughout the country, and she's resilient. So in terms of keeping a level head in adverse situations, you lose a job or you got to, move or new adventures, whatever the case may be, maybe a poor stretch of the season or even the highs and lows of the season. She's my sounding board. She's my rock in terms of keeping the family afloat now. It was just us. We got a 2-year-old, AJ, keeping him in check and keeping me level-headed and, not too high, not too low. But the fact that she has lived everywhere, Navy bases, and it's definitely what you want in a coach's wife. She's used to traveling. She's used to boxing stuff up and moving on to the next adventure. So, but definitely her level-headedness and her ability to just keep me focused on the task at hand and not too high, not too low.
Let's talk about AJ a little bit. You say he's 2 years old. What makes him so unique or special to you?
Well, I mean, I don't know how many guys say it, but I've always wanted to be a dad. Like if there's a Hall of Fame, I think all football coaches want to be in the Hall of Fame or, be the best of their ability. I want to be a great dad, so he's so special to me because, I mean, he's mine. Everything that he does is a reflection of me and our family, so whether it be his learning the alphabet now or learning his colors or saying yes, sir, or thank you, or saying grace before dinner, like that's a direct reflection of me and Becky and our family. And, rarely in life do you have something that genuinely reflects you. And, I mean, the number one thing is having a child. He's what I look forward to coming home and playing with them and, tackling them and doing WWF moves and all that stuff. I mean, it's a blast. It makes you young. I know he's 2, but he's solid when he's doing the high moves, the big moves.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, my wife, of course, but just the love, the unconditional love that a child has for his parents, it's remarkable. It's something you can't put a measuring stick on.
Did you guys have to, some guys talked about like planning, oh man, we wanted to wait till a certain time. Was there any considerations into that, or was it just, hey, whenever it happens, it happens?
No, I mean, I'm Catholic, so usually you get married and you get started. So,
right.
As soon as, I mean, luckily, so it was kind of a unique deal. He was, we got pregnant when I was still living in Jackson, Mississippi, and then we had to manage a move with a pregnant wife to Houston, Texas, and then he was born 2 days after our last game in the 2017 season. So
wow.
That was, I mean, you got a new job, you're working in a new place, you're doing a move. The wife is an ER nurse now. She's no longer an athletic trainer, so she had to get a new job. She had to manage, being pregnant and still working and all that stuff. So it was. And then, you got to find daycare, all that stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no doubt that's a challenge.
Right.
Next, we're moving to a section called We Make the Call and discuss how your family has navigated some of the important decisions throughout your career. Obviously, you mentioned you met your wife while you were a coach and she was a trainer, but how were those negotiations with your wife about, hey, I'm going to continue on this career path, and any bumps in the road on that in terms of that decision?
So we were solid, and I think, when you got the one, you got the one. So when I left Avila in 2012, I went to Philadelphia to Villanova University, and she stayed back. So she was an athletic trainer, and she stayed back to transition into this nursing deal. So she actually lived with her family, who is now, most of her family's from Kansas City. So she lived with her family and did a 1-year intensive nursing course to be able to get a nursing degree. She had all the prerequisites that you'd have, all the health sciences, all that stuff through the athletic training. But so we actually dated for about 4.5 months, 5 months, and then I think we saw each other 23 days in 2013. And I said, I got, yeah. I mean, we talked every day, and
right.
FaceTime and all that stuff, but I knew she was the one, and we made a long distance thing work, and I think that showed my commitment to her and her commitment to me. And she was, even when I get to see her, she was so involved in that intensive 12-hour a day nursing school, between her having to go to the hospital, her having to go to class. I mean, I think she forgot who I was half the time. She was so had such a singular focus on that stuff. So she lived there and I lived away, and I said, as soon as I can. At the time, I was still trying to get a Division I graduate assistant job. I said, if I get a job, we're going to move, we're going to live together. And I was at Villanova for 1 year. I had the opportunity to get a graduate assistantship at Tulane University, and I drove from Philadelphia to Kansas City in a snowstorm in January and picked up her, and we drove to the hot, muggy streets of New Orleans and Tulane University and started our, see if this thing's going to work.
Sure. So you've had some moves together, some jobs I'm sure maybe you've taken by choice, other jobs you've had you've been let go and had to refine. But how do you maybe go through your job career and talk about how you guys have evaluated the next decisions together, or maybe there wasn't a lot of collaborative process, and maybe how you navigated those different choices of where the next job was going to be?
Right. I mean, we make all decisions as a household now, especially now that we have a son. So like when we were pregnant and we were at Jackson State and we had the opportunity to go to Texas Southern to work with, friends in the profession that we were close with, and, Mike Haywood, who, so what Mike did was he took Becky on the interview. I interviewed and did the football stuff, and, Becky was there while we were interviewing. We'd go out to dinner at night. It was about 2 days, and he wanted to make sure the whole family fit, So that kind of sealed that deal. She got recruited, and, she enjoyed it. And then after our 2 years at Texas Southern, it didn't go the way we'd like. You had to find the next job. So it was, all right, where can we go to keep the train rolling? And Jason Simpson was another family man, a guy that said, hey, come here, who already had an offensive line coach, great offensive line coach, and Kevin Bannon said, hey, I'd be even willing to split the lineup, and you guys work together. Is that something you're interested in? And I had experience in the OVC. I went to Eastern Illinois, so I said, yeah, let's go. I mean, right now I'm on the couch and you're looking at your phone and Football Scoop, and you're trying to find, a job because you're out, and it's not, I mean, it's always, everyone's got a part to blame in it, but, when they don't renew a head coach's contract and all his assistants are out, it's not necessarily your fault, but you're still looking, so we went through that, with a 1-year-old son at the time. Had to face, like a lot of guys in this profession, I ain't the only one, I won't be the last, and had to face those decisions. And we prayed about it, and we make the decisions as a family. And, if stuff arises, we'll always do that, together. It has to be the right fit for our family. You can't put a price on, like here, I get to, if AJ ever has an appointment or anything that we need to do, Coach Simpson, again, you're working for a family man, and it's hard to find that out in interviews, but Coach Simpson's never batted an eye. Hey, go be with your family, go take care of it, or hey, we can work a schedule around it. And it's been that way, and it's hard to find a lot of times in this profession, that incorporate the family. So we're blessed. And the city of Martin, where we live now, is a small community. Everyone knows each other. Like our mail lady is also her daughters are also our babysitters. When AJ's not in daycare, it's everyone knows, and it's the best thing about it. Everyone wants to see you succeed and wants to help you, and it's the beauty of a smaller town that everyone in the community truly cares. So we've been blessed in that decision, and a lot of it we put a lot of faith in God. I mean, we pray as a family, and we know He's got the right course for us, and. But those decisions get challenging. You look at the next, another opportunity that could have come. You do your research on it, and you do your research on the head coach, and do the research on the schools that you'd be living in, and your kind of finances and all that. You say, is it really better than what I have right now? Will we be as happy? Will we get to see as much as each other? All those things, and you kind of weigh all those variables. And are you closer to your extended family? Flights get expensive when you're living across the country and your family's out of Chicago and Kansas City, so the fact that like right now in our situation, it's a 6.5-hour drive to Chicago. It's a 7.5-hour drive to Kansas City. We saw our family more this last calendar year than we have probably the last 5 combined.
Awesome.
There's nothing, you can't put a price on that stuff. It's huge.
You mentioned your coach being, understanding of you guys if you need an appointment or whatever the case may be. You said it's a rarity. Why do you think that is for head coaches to grant those sort of things to their assistants?
Well, I just think the stress of the profession. I mean, everyone's trying to get the competitive advantage. Everyone, you're either working with the guys you have or working with the guys you're going to have. You're either recruiting or you're working with the players you have on campus, and there's so much time that needs to be invested to do that, But if you're not in a good state of mind because you're worried about, okay, is my son going to get picked up on time at daycare? Do we have this situation where the home is, squared away? Then you're probably not going to do a great job where you're at.
Yeah.
It's just everyone's got their own leadership styles. Everyone got different ways to run their companies or, their football business. And I shouldn't say, you hear stories. I've been fortunate enough to not work with many guys that put you in those binds like, hey, we're going to need you here.
Right.
You can't go do that. Or even you find sometimes someone will say, yeah, you can, but, we'll just be here working. And you're like, all right, okay, good.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Thanks.
It happens. That's a truth.
Yep.
The other side of the profession, but
right.
So a lot of it's probably stress. Everyone wants to win. It becomes harder and harder to stay at a place for a longer and longer because of the stress of winning,
Yeah. No doubt. Your son's only 2, but consistency and discipline is a big thing in parenting. With being as part as much as you are, how do you and your wife communicate and deal with the discipline issues with your kid?
Yeah, so we always make sure we're on the same page. Like, even if I disagree or she disagrees with me, like how we're going to handle a situation, we have each other's back, and then we'll reassess. Now, my biggest thing is I don't ever want to say anything. Like if mom says no cookie or mom says no screen time, I can't be the good guy in that situation. I'm his father, not his friend. He's going to learn that there's no spot he can really run to in terms of trying to get what he wants when that's not what's best for him. We're the adults in the scenario. So we talk about it. We talk about it all the time. Like, hey, is he watching too much TV, or is he, how do we handle this situation? Because like a 2-year-old wants to bite or doesn't know how to control his emotions. So sometimes he'll get mad at me when he's overtired and, start swinging at me. I'm like, okay, bud. But that's what a 2-year-old does. They don't know how to express their feelings. He's trying to put together a sentence,
Right.
So you can't get mad at him about it, but you got to talk to him. And we're on the same page about it. Like, he can bash me in the nose, and he's not going to go on timeout. We're going to talk to him about, hey, that's not right. Here's how you express yourself, and you're trying to just get repetitive habits so it gets ingrained in them. No different than coaching. That's why you do drills. Right. You get drill discipline.
Right. I love it. The third series of questions we'll call clock management and how you spend your time to blend family and football. You have moved a couple times. Maybe give the coaches that are facing a move one recommendation you have about moving and one thing you should probably avoid to make the process go easier.
Definitely avoid the processes. Have a really solid game plan. Okay, the truck is going to be here at 9. Okay, all the guys that are going to help me are going to be over here at 10. The box is already loaded. Nobody has to box anything. Everything's all set up. You're prepared for the event. Okay, but you also have to have, just like sudden change, you got to be willing to roll with punches. All right, U-Haul didn't have the truck. What do we do? Okay, well, here's what we got to get done. Yada yada yada. And then the key is just having a level head. Like if you're stressed out as, the partner of your wife, she's going to feed off that, and it's complete chaos. Someone's going to carry the load of stress. I try to always make it me because I'm used to it, and try to be the level-headed guy when she's worried about, okay, will this be set up? Will the movers be here by this time? Yada, yada, yada. So you can't have two, and there does have to be a head coach. Because I'm never going to – I picked the place we lived at Tulane, and it was close to the facility, okay? Yep. And I will never for the rest of my life hear the end of it. So I will never pick – I'll have some say, but I'll never have the final judgment of where we live. That is Becky Jones 1,000%. Okay, and I hope you're listening, honey. Like stuff like that. Like you got to give up some stuff. You got to make sure that the whole family's involved. And to be honest with you, her and your children, if you have them, they're going to be in that house more than you are. You're going to be on the road recruiting. You're going to be on Is it close to the schools? Is it close to? If you got to drive 5 more minutes to the office to have maybe a bigger house for the finances that you have, because it's a little bit further away from a certain location, whether it's closer to certain activities that your children or your wife would like if you can make those concessions, because you're going to go there, and it's not like we work every single day 24 hours a day, but they're going to be there more than you. They're living normal, I'd call it civilian lives. You're not. You're on a crazy time schedule on the calendar. So when you can concede to some of that stuff, it makes the whole situation even better.
That's awesome. That's great advice. You said I'll never hear the end of it. We've all made those decisions that we're never going to hear.
Remember that shoebox we were living in Tulane? It's what we could afford, but it was also the closest thing that we could afford to the office. I walked to the office. I didn't even need a car. I walked every day to the office. And if it rained, I got an umbrella.
Gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Right.
The long hours you had, obviously your son was 1 year old last season. What were things you did to stay engaged in his life during the season?
Well, he actually became 2 while we were here in Martin over this course this year. So, but we make sure that any free time we are outside doing as much as we can. So, like there is I don't want to say a jungle gym, but a gymnastic deal. Yeah, there's like a gymnastic building here, and they do toddler time every Saturday at like 9 o'clock, and it's for an hour, and it's like $5 to get in, and he gets to run around and jump on stuff and knock stuff over. Half the time I think he's like tackling all their their pads.
Yep.
But we're going to make sure we do that stuff. We're going to try to make it as much about him and giving those experiences of the family. Because those are times, like when you look back in your childhood, like remember when the whole family went to this spot, or we used to do this every Saturday. Like that's what I want him to have. Now he's 2, he's probably never going to remember it, but we try to do as much of that as possible. As much as those little, let's go to the park once a week, try to have goals in mind of what we do. But because of our practice structure here, I go home, so we break practice, and we got about an hour and a half till we come back and watch the film. I go home, and I eat as fast as I can because it's his bedtime, and I'll read him 2 books every night. Like,
now
he might not be ready to go to be ready to go to sleep at a time. Yep. I got to leave to go back. I still have responsibility, but I don't want anyone else raising my son, and not my wife, of course, but like I don't want him learning how to read from just school or just daycare or just when his grandparents come in and read to him. Like it's like structured. We got a routine. Okay, every night you're gonna get 2 books. We're gonna go through our dad routine, and then if he's ready to go to sleep, I put him down. And, the wife's real happy. If not, you got to go back to work, and you're leaving a half asleep child, which is sometimes the worst thing. But yeah, I try to do that as much as possible. So that might mean he had to go down a little bit earlier for the night. He's 2, so he's going to go to bed early, anyways.
Sure.
But just trying to keep him as structured as possible. But those things, like if I got to eat in the meeting while we're watching the film just to grab the food back just so I got 10 more minutes with the boy before he went to bed, I'm going to do that. You can eat whenever, He's never going to be 2 again, So I'm going to make sure he's got a book and he's got some time with his dad every opportunity he gets.
Awesome. And the same with your wife. How, a lot of guys say, we go out to dinner on Thursdays, and I think that's pretty common for most guys, But what are things that you and your wife do to stay connected and help grow your marriage, especially during the season?
Well, we don't eat out much because I cook so much.
Yeah, we see all the accolades of the cooking on Twitter, so
So
we know she married up in that sense.
Well, she can cook too now. Don't put pressure. She can throw down. But
all right.
Yeah, so Thursdays, like those, quote unquote, the coaches' date night stuff. we usually try to pick, and we try to have as much time together where it's not talking about football. That is a huge part of our life, okay? But we also have to you got to find some normalcy and stuff. So, we will pick a show. Like when we first started dating, it was Sons of Anarchy. Like we were watching, that was our deal. Like we're going to sit there on the couch. We're going to watch, it could have been aired that night or, we taped it. And it was from a couple nights ago, but we're going to make sure we watch that together. Like we find a show and that becomes our thing. And then, we talk about it. Like, what do you think is going to happen, the next? No different than any other couple out there. We do like home games. Anytime you kind of have the ability to either like not stay at the hotel and stay at home, or on the road if they can come and just stay in the hotel room and we can kind of keep it like normal family even the night before. Like I'm for that, Yeah. So there's some. Our league isn't too far apart. So during the year, like if I can get another Friday night with my wife and kid, I'm talking after meetings. Still had my responsibility. But if there's a hotel, the hotel situation allows for it. You got, enough rooms and everyone's got all that. I try to do that. And then we're blessed enough to be able to drive home after the games with our family. So I try after the game, win or loss. Luckily we had more wins last year than losses, to try to, decompress a little bit. I'll probably be quiet for the first 10, 15 minutes of the drive, and then we just start talking about life, who's coming to the game next week, what do we got going on this week, kind of preparing ahead, that kind of deal. But we all know football's a major part of our life. Yeah, that's what we signed up for. But if we can find stuff just outside of that, I think sometimes helps, But I mean, one of our shows was watching Hard Knocks. Like she thought that was the coolest show out there. That was so. She'd laugh at coaches and all that kind of stuff. And her being an athletic trainer, she was indoctrinated into athletics. Like she knows the hours you put in and the type of player personalities you have to kind of manage and all that stuff. So she gets it. It's a unique deal.
That's cool. As a coach, how do you and your staff work to prevent chasing ghosts, especially during the week, to prevent probably unnecessary planning where maybe you're just staying in the office too long? Or how do you guys kind of handle that?
Right. I don't know. I think most of the guys are so mature. Most of the guys, like we have the ability to express our opinions here. Some places, there's going to be a directive and everyone follows the directive blindly. Like with Coach Simpson here, it's, okay, let's work on the stuff that's important. If anyone has something to say about another way of doing it better, another way of, making our program more efficient, like he's all for that, So if there's a formation you really like, but you only got one play out of it and you're trying to do all this, and this, like if you really sit down and say, hey, I think maybe some of this practice time would be better served working on some of our base. I mean, he's all for it. I get it. It's one deal, but only one guy got out of there, and that corner might have fell down. Whatever it is. Right. A lot of times you start seeing touchdowns on Thursday that weren't there on Sunday and Monday of your game plan. And not to say that's not a bad thing, but
that's so true.
you can end up. And sometimes you do. You find those things later in the week. You truly study. Your eyes are glued on those people and those how their alignments are and all that stuff. But I mean, you can make this as tedious and as long if you don't have a structured program. Like we have a very structured program here, so you don't need to do a lot of, unnecessary work. And I think anytime you run efficiently, it's hard to be a head coach here for going on its 15th season and not have things pretty darn efficient, I was
going to say, that's pretty, you got it pretty wired at that point.
Right.
All right, let's deviate from the script a little bit because I personally want to talk to you about this. You started the Linemen lunch on Twitter a number of years back. Just tell our listeners kind of what your thought process was on getting that started and kind of where it's taken off from now and how you've seen it develop.
Right. So it's a fun story. So basically, when I was at Tulane, I was a graduate assistant in the springtime. When Coach McDonnell, the guy I GA'd for, was on the road, we try to have as many O-line, little film sessions as we can. So we kind of schedule them around the lunchtime. We go in there and watch tape. Well, Curtis Johnson was, and we ended up watching like our cut-ups from the previous years or one-on-one film. Maybe you didn't get to watch during the season and all that kind of stuff. But after a point, you kind of run out of film to watch. And every player thinks and wants to play in the NFL for the most part. So Coach CJ, Curtis Johnson, our head coach, NFL guy, he's back with the New Orleans Saints. He gave us all projects, and kind of geared up by our offense coordinator, Eric Price. He kind of told us what exactly we were looking for and what projects each guy was going to do. And it's kind of like an off-season study, what's the best, what are teams pass concept-wise running in the red zone, or like a couple of mine were like short yardage or like new wrinkles to zone runs, and you're buzzing through all this tape. Well, I always said if I had the time and the resource all this tape, I'd always make a film library of, great blocks, great base blocks,
Sure.
double teams. So you have basically a visual representation of when you're coaching something, you say, hey, this is what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Here's the Hall of Fame of the deuce block. This is,
Sure.
Here's the reason why it's successful, and this is what I'm looking to get accomplished. Even though it's not your guys playing, they can still learn from, maybe one or two guys on the line. Well, as you're buzzing through that tape, you see guys, and it might just be it could be a negative run play, but you see the left tackle do his job to, the umpteenth degree, and it's perfect. And so you just tag it and you start building a library. Well, because Tulane was a high academic institution, as the spring kind of went on, guys had to, really buckle down on their grades, and the meetings got less and less. So eventually, in our little group chat, I would send them kind of the block of the day. Like, here's some stuff to look at, with some coaching points on there, but just a small little clip to kind of get a coaching point across. Well, eventually, the guys asked me to put it on my social media so they can kind of reference it and go back to it, so they weren't just saving data on their phone. I started posting it, and originally I posted it on Facebook under my own personal, normal Facebook page, and I was getting friend requests from people all over the world. It was shared and all that stuff. So I'm like, I need to go put this on something else. So then I put it on Twitter, and that's kind of when all this stuff. I wasn't versed in the Twitter world. When I first put it on there, I think I had 300 followers.
Okay.
Or whatever that, the people that, like your stuff.
Yep.
And I put it out there, and then it's kind of just gone from there. And then, over the years, it's been great, but going back to the home team, okay, you get married, you go through maybe a change in responsibility on the staff. As GAs, you have no time, but you have a lot of time. You got to do a million different things, but it's you find time to do other things too, and that's kind of when I was doing as a graduate assistant. So it kind of has gone up and down. There's parts of the year. Now we got the Corona quarantines and all that stuff. You got more time to watch film and more time to do some other stuff. You can do more of those videos. I know when I was getting married, I didn't really put a lot of them out. When I was moving, I didn't put a lot of them out. Right now, I've got a little time. I'm putting more of them out. So it kind of come and goes, with kind of what's going on in your life.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you got to be smart about what you're doing. I mean, nothing can obviously take away from job performance, right? That's probably the number one thing. You don't want to see sport.
Yeah, right.
But,
become more of an
it's a
off-season type thing.
Yeah. Has anyone, it's hard to really know your reach. I love this stuff. I think it's, full flat hat. There's so much cool things that you've been able to put out there for guys. Has there been any maybe moments where you're like, God, I'm really glad I did this? If people reached out and said, man, or is it just kind of based on the number of likes and retweets that you kind of see that you're adding value?
Well, I don't. So the thing is, I don't even put the notifications on my phone. I don't, unless someone messaged me about something, I just put it out there and kind of walk away. I don't. I kind of use it just a teaching tool. It's like, I mean, now you go on Twitter and it's like an online clinic every day. You can follow a bunch of people and learn things. And I think it's your job as a coach or a fan of football or whatever you do is to disseminate the stuff that's real and what's fake, or just some of the stuff that you believe in and can teach. Like some of the stuff I put on there, I've never coached before, but I understand the philosophy of it. And, I would not necessarily ask players that I coach to be able to do it because maybe they can't. A lot of this stuff's NFL stuff, so it's not like, I'm coaching those guys either. And it's not like I'm trying to take credit for any of those guys. It's just an explanation of skills and blocking patterns and all that. But no, it's in kind of brutal honesty. Yes, I've met a lot of people from doing that stuff, but also I've met people that say, "Oh, you're the lineman lunch guy." And it's like, that's totally not me. I don't want to be known as, "Hey, you're the guy that's, doing all that." No, I'm Matt Jones, and I coach at Tennessee Martin. If you want to come by and talk ball, let's go.
No doubt.
So it's, I mean, in brutal honesty, because I'm a typical line guy. You don't get in the coaching all line for fame and glory.
Right.
You get it because you like the work and you're good with those guys. So,
yeah.
It's in full disclosure. I mean, it's been a good thing. I'm not discrediting what I've done, but I mean, there's a bunch of guys that do it now, and it's all good stuff, and it's helping the profession, helping the, just football in general, putting out good stuff out there.
I agree. We'll move on to our final set of questions we call Prevent Defense, helping to provide some bigger picture things that can help or can prevent a coach from losing what's most important. If you're able to, can you share a struggle you've had to overcome as a family during your career and what lessons other coaches could learn from it, or maybe someone you've seen had to overcome a struggle?
Yeah, I personally, I mean, again, just being fully open and honest, just bringing work home with you. You had a bad day, a kid didn't pass the test and you're worried about his eligibility, you lost the game. Like, it's so easy to come home and just be the grump dad, or grump husband, or, just a pain in the ass to even live around. And it's hard. It's hard not to, because once the season goes, like even my wife will say, like, you go into coach mode. You start talking louder at the dinner table. You're more direct. And I'm like, I don't mean to. You're just wired that way. You're around these guys, and you're demanding their attention and respect, and you're educating them and the culture of coaching and all that stuff. But it's so easy to bring those moments that aren't as great home with you, and it can compile. You can turn one bad situation into a worse one in a hurry. So I've learned to just take it before I hit the threshold of the door, and I'm not perfect at it. Before I come home from work, I take a deep breath and I try to, decompress and, I don't want to say like be a different guy, but know that, okay, I got to be a good dad. I got to be a good husband. I can't let us giving up a sack affect me reading a book to my son tonight, And that's hard. It's hard because it's your lifeblood. It's what you're doing. We're all competitors. We're all really want to be successful. It's genuinely hard not to do that, But if you focus on it, just like anything, if you train yourself, you can get better at it. And I'm by no means perfect, but I'd fear that my son, if we lost a big game, would not want to talk to me. Like, oh, Dad's going to be a grump,
Sure.
I'm a father first. I'm a husband first. You can't let that fly into your home life like that, because it can be a bomb that you don't even realize that goes off one day, So, yeah, that's the biggest advice I can say is try to keep it, even though we all are intertwined, our wives and our kids and all the coaches in the office and all that, we're all intertwined. Don't let it affect the home.
Okay. It's great advice. Do you view modeling good parenting and being a good spouse as something that is important to the development of your players?
Yeah, I definitely think we're role models as coaches, and being a good guy is, you think about it, like coaching offensive line, you got 15 to 20 guys in that room that are looking up to you. They're looking at you for how to be a better football player, but also advice on how to be a better person. And if you're leading from the front and showing them by example that you're a good father, you're a good husband. Like, I love, and I'm sure you've seen it on social media, I love having my guys over and feeding them. And it's not for the fact that they get to have some pizza or anything. It's more of, I want them to see, me interact with my son, me interact with my wife, them get a chance to interact with both those two, to realize that it is, yes, football's brought us together, but the family part, whether it's on a football team or in the household, in your own personal house, that's just as important, probably more important, because when you're winning both of those, you're probably going to win on the football field. So, I know the fact that I've been a father for the last, 27 months, I think it is now, 2 years, AJ's 2, has made me a better coach, because now I look at that child that I'm coaching, and he's 18, he's a man now, but I look at him as if he's my son. Okay, what kind of leader would I be? What kind of role model would I be? What kind of father would I be if I'm not treating him, with the utmost respect, still being hard on him, but not being their friend? Like I said earlier in the podcast, I'm going to be their father, not their friend. Well, I'm going to be their coach, not their friend. Doesn't mean that we can't have a friendship. But when you want to stray away from the pack, if I'm your friend, I'm going to let you. If I'm your father, if I'm your coach, I'm going to reel you back in. Because I'm the adult here. I'm the one that knows what's best for you, even though you may not see it at the time. So, yeah, I think they definitely correlate. Being a good husband, being a good father, I think even makes you a better football coach. In full honesty.
Coach, I'm going to bump ahead to the last question. It's what I call victory formation. It's a little bit long, but I think it's a good one. When the outside world looks at a coach, they will often get judged by the wins and losses or the accomplishments of their players. But the legacy a coach can have on his players and his family is much more lasting than anything that can be measured. What legacy or impact are you striving to create through coaching that you couldn't do in any other profession?
Well, yeah, it's the last kind of venue, football especially, where you can really teach, create a culture and create an atmosphere of leadership, doing the right thing, battling through adversity, following your goals and dreams, working towards those goals and dreams, not getting handouts, not having anyone else do it for you. Football is a unique deal because you got all these guys and everyone wants to be the alpha on their team, the alpha on their unit, the alpha in the league, and you're trying to teach them how to be a good person, how to be a good football player. So, yeah, it's you can win a lot of games a bunch of different ways. It'd be an interesting set to see, heaven forbid I was dead and gone, how many players would come, to the funeral because I helped them in life, not because we won championships together and we got trophies and we had all those great times. Yeah, those are great. Those are awesome. That's what we're here for. I get it. But how many guys got the trophy of, I learned how to, when I lost my job and I was a father, I learned how to pick myself up and provide and still be the great man that I learned from football, that maybe, he could say, you taught me, coach. That's the biggest championship, the biggest reward, the biggest thing. And if you're in the profession for the right reasons, I think that's what you're ultimately trying to do, is affect these young men's lives for the rest of their life, So that is the victory formation, I guess, is trying to make sure these guys are just great citizens and great people, and follow the hopes and dreams that they got, athletically and spiritually and academically and all those things,
Awesome, Coach. Well, I really appreciate your time. It's been wonderful to talk with you. Hope that you guys are managing the situation that's, currently facing our country, and it's hitting all of us in different ways, but we wish you nothing but the best of luck this upcoming season, and we'll look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
I appreciate you, Joel. Thanks again to you and USA Football for having me on, and always love talking with you guys, and hopefully everyone's out there safe and washing their hands and just doing what we're asked of until this thing, settles down. So, just have faith.
Absolutely.
Coaches, again, I want to remind you of what we're doing with the football development model. Please push this down to your youth coaches. I think this is a great way for you to get some organization and structure beyond what you've already done. Check it out, all of our program development for youth football at fdm.usafootball.com. Again, check out our systems for blocking, tackling, and defeating blocks at footballdevelopment.com. If you register with your email, you get your choice of 3 free videos. There's some great things in there. I think things that as you get going again, you can get into the summer and maybe make up on some things that you might have lost if you had a spring ball, if you had time here in the spring to work on football. Some great drills for all those phases of contact. If you're enjoying the podcast, please head over to iTunes or your platform and give us a 5-star rate. If you have a minute, write a review. We really appreciate it, and we will read your review on our highlight show that we do at the end of the week.
Thanks for listening to USA Football's Coach and Coordinator Podcast. For more resources, visit the Coach Performance Center at usafootball.com.